Hello and welcome to Check for Traps. I'm Aaron,
And I'm Josh.
and today we're talking about The Birds of Prey, or The Emancipation of the Fantabulous Harley Quinn.
I'm afraid you scored no points.
Is one Fantabulous Harley Quinn, isn't it? I think there's a one
Yeah,
in there.
I think it's the fantabulous emancipation of one Harley Quinn.
Of one Harley Quinn. Fuck. I mean, from memory at least, you can prove that I wasn't faking it. I could have just read it out. I tried to recall it.
Like a hack.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
exactly.
That's what I was doing.
Like a genuine fan. You know,
Jesus.
I remember thinking that it was quite a bold choice of title. It doesn't lend itself to marketability very well.
Not that I was sore about Suicide Squad. I thought it was very funny watching it with you, but because this kind of seemed to have a similar aesthetic, when I saw that title, I immediately resented it because I just thought that it was going to be a completely hollow, kind of affectation for the movie, much like everything else may have been in it. But that wasn't what it was like. And I mean, I'm interested, more interested to hear you lead on this one.
Yeah.
I wasn't as positive as you, but it's a decent enough flick.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. The title really smacks of style over substance, doesn't it?
Yes, yeah.
And sure, that I think. Then again, I'm not sure that is something I could accuse this movie of having. It has style. I don't think it has as much style as it thinks it does, and it has substance. And again, probably not as much as it thinks it does. But yeah, I had a really good time. I think my sort of like before we get into spoiler thing, I would say that if you want a female Deadpool where everything's a bit more grounded, and yet the highs are higher and the lows are lower, I think you've got your picture right here. And equally, if you're a fan of the Birds of Prey comics, then this has very little to do with that, but it's an interesting take on it. I mean, it's got characters that you don't normally see connected with it that much. I mean, I think the original draft of this was like, Batgirl and some more of the mainstays. Black Canary, I guess, is probably the biggest one, and Huntress does appear in a fair few of them, but yeah, is missing some key characters. There's no like Katana, who's obviously already been in this universe, but I guess Harley Quinn is already probably enough Suicide Squad for this movie, and also a shout out I entirely rate. So I'm glad Jay Courtney got a grand for showing up to do that, to take that photo.
I was thinking earlier in the movie, like right before that happened, I was just like, I hate it when these movies throw out these completely hollow references. Oh, that's so... I'm not stupid enough to fall for something like that. Why is anyone? It's a thing on screen with a total half-life. It has no real ramification. So I was thinking that, and the only reason I say that is because as soon as they showed a picture of Captain Boomerang, and Harley Quinn pointed at it and said, "Oh, I know that guy," and then it was of no consequence, I was like, "Woohoo!"
Yeah,
I loved it.
Exactly.
I completely fell on my own sword immediately. I should realised that I was pathetic and snide. I was like, no, I love that shit, and I love and miss Captain Boomerang.
Oh, I miss him as well. I miss him. I miss his tinnies. I guess on a bad day I would call this a guilty pleasure. On a good day I would call this a really fine action film. That's not bad at all, especially for the DCEU. And I think this is still DCEU. They made a distinction because they don't. Apparently the Batman isn't, but obviously because this is Suicide Squad and they don't want to remove that connection, and this firmly is in whatever aspect that's going to turn out to be.
I think that it's interesting that despite the fact that people thought that Suicide Squad was kind of going to be the thing to kill the DCEU, it seems to be bizarrely the only thing that they're proceeding with as an extended narrative. I mean, I don't understand anything that DC does, but it seems to be working out okay for them.
Yeah, I mean, it survived. Not only, and it survived and flourished. Yeah, I mean, if you told me that, Batflick was getting the can, and that Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn was not only getting a solo title flick, but also then another Suicide Squad, then I would have laughed in your face. I guess I think it really speaks to sort of like the weird journey DC's been on. I think, we've had Joker, we had Shazam, and now we've had this. I think we can, I know no one wants to be the guy to say, oh, DC's back on track, because I don't believe they are, and I think they can easily get derailed, but yes. I mean, hell, Free is the beginning of a pattern here. I'm really happy with where DC is at now, by comparison.
I wanted to pick up on something you said earlier, because you said that the movie it seemed like it would be style over substance. It certainly has style, but it also has substance. Now, I thought it was a good enough movie. There were things about it that I found a bit annoying, and, like you said, it's kind of summed up in the Harley Quinn character and performance, in that I can't help but actually laugh at a lot of the things that happen in it. And I laughed way more than I would in a lot of movies that would consider themselves to be comedies, and I laughed hard as well, like really hard. But then there's lots of other things as well where it will flick quite quickly into being a bit tiresome. But I only say this as a compliment to it overall, because it's not really meant for me, and I don't mean because it's because it's female led or anything, but I just think it's kind of a kind of a DC outlier movie. Even these characters and stuff don't really appeal to me even on the page that much. It's not my thing. And on the subject of like the style, one of the things that I found kept holding the movie back for me, mostly in the beginning, is that I know that Suicide Squad is quite like messy looking, but what Suicide Squad weirdly has going for it is a lot of it takes place at night. And what I found difficult about this, and it made me think a lot about the way that you portray comic book characters on screen, is that the frame was always so busy with just random shit. And like Harley Quinn's, just her face and her hair is already, quite a look. It's a very strong, deliberate, toxic colours. And then on top of that, she'd be wearing like, a weird, crazy suit with see-through plastic lapels and like metallic, shiny pom-pom shoulder pads.
Yep.
And it's just like that in a scene, and then everyone else is wearing like something completely batshit, and the background looks batshit, and it's broad daylight. I thought that what it needed was have the craziness certainly, but scale it back maybe a bit. It's like how the Joker's face is nutty enough, so then you kind of probably just want the purple suit. You don't want him to. It's a hat on a hat.
Okay.
And it's just a lot of the movie. I was like, I think this could look a lot better than it does, just with a little bit more restraint. I actually think it would look zanier and crazier and more Fairground Carnival with less happening. Essentially, the headline is that sometimes in these situations, like, less is more. And I'm not saying loads less, but I am saying less than the shiny metallic pom bears, especially when everyone else in the scene is, like, wearing a mask and, like, a velvet tuxedo that's patterned and, like, not even a shirt on underneath, some kind of weird t-shirt, and they're wearing like golden biker gloves. It's just a lot going on. And then finally, I felt that the narrative of the movie, it was difficult to get me on board at the beginning because it was purposefully being a bit all over the place and jumping back on itself, and we both discussed this, but once it had finally caught back up with its own telling of its own story, I actually felt like I could finally get back on board with it. I really disengaged when it showed me something from in the future and then went back to explain why that happened. I really don't totally see the point. And finally, sometimes just a bit too much Harley Quinn narration that I felt kind of stunted some of the gags, and it was kind of just state what would have been kind of obvious just from Margot Robbie's performance.
I mean, I'm going to have to actually disagree with you on the
Go ahead, man.
On the visually busyness. I remember like a couple of points in this. I was like, I think, and again, people can crucify for me that this is what I want, but I'm a big Tank Girl fan. And I was like, I think this is like the true successor in my mind. Or this felt like, again, in the same way that you said, like John Wick delivered the promise of like 80s action films but done in a modern way. I was like, this feels like what I've been missing from that sort of Tank Girl vibe. Yeah, not quite punk in the same way that Tank Girl was, but like just sort of like, yeah, like I was loving how much was on screen. I thought it was all nuts. I liked that everyone felt like different genre characters. Like that always feels like comic books at its best to me. Like, you had like the hard-boiled cop, you had the Huntress, who they really sort of angled for as like a socially awkward Batgirl, Batwoman sort of thing, even though she's the non-Batman related Huntress. That was great.
Yes.
The little Chinese pickpocket felt like something out of a, I don't know, like, yeah, again, like an 80s sort of thing, like a lovable rogue vibe. The Black Canary, more, I guess, actual superhero. Yeah, it was at its best for me when it was being so ridiculously loud and chaotic and frenetic.
Yeah, I'm glad.
That probably accounts for a slight different enjoyments of that. And again, with the alien storytelling, I was like, this is probably unnecessary. I was like, maybe thematically, I guess it sort of suits a crazy person or a deranged person telling you a story, but that there's a reason that isn't the optimal way to tell a story. So if that was the intention, then they did sort of hoist themselves there. But I was largely engaged, and I did like it because she would be like, oh wait, you've got no idea why this is happening, and then go back. And I was like, yeah, I guess I do have no idea. That's a double-edged sword, because that's also not a good thing.
Just because I think that your positivity is good to balance out, so I'll go in on one more thing. In that I thought I really liked the Huntress. I really liked the running gag about how everyone else called her the crossbow killer.
Yep.
Actually pissing myself at that.
Even the guy with like the crossbow bolt in his throat. I thought that was fucking hilarious.
Mary Elizabeth Winstead, great to see her back on screen. Like her in everything. She really made that one her own. That was another thing when they were showing her backstory, I wasn't totally against it, but it was just kind of, as soon as they started saying what happened, I kind of already knew it, even though I know nothing about the Huntress. So I was a bit like, da-da-da-da-da. Family killed, raised by assassins, kung fu revenge, blah, blah, blah. But, I wasn't...
Yeah, literally. I love that. I love that they linked fully into that. She was like, oh, you know the story. Raised by assassins, family murdered.
I guess my problem with that, though, was that she was like, the story, but then we were still doing it. So it kind of felt like a bit of a winky winky eyebrow raise, much like Deadpool actually.
Oh, like have your cake and eat it.
Better than Deadpool. Yeah, exactly. But I say this only to say that I was going but I wasn't losing my fucking patience, and I liked her a lot. Liked Harley, liked the kid, but honestly, like the cop character, I was not a massive fan of. I thought it was funny that she was drinking a lot, and that was kind of it. I thought she was funnier at the beginning, but...
You liked her t-shirt. Yeah. I recall that much.
I loved her. Yeah, I did definitely like her t-shirt. I could never lie and say that t-shirt wasn't making me piss myself.
I want to know who got arrested in that t-shirt, because that's a real low moment for them.
Squad goals. Yeah, how did you feel generally about All the Birds of Prey? Because I thought it was a bit of an uneven setting for them.
I thought the Black Canary was done strange, but I think that's because I've got like a mad strong love for Black Canary and Green Arrow. It was an interesting origin story. I liked the reference to her mother having been seemingly Black Canary as well. Considering this is in the same Gotham that Batfleck's a part of, and considering there's that whole sort of like his 20-year war on crime, I am still a bit of a sucker for those sort of throwouts, even though we're probably never going to see Batfleck or anything close to him again. Yeah. It gives me hope for that they haven't fully given up on this universe when I see stuff like that. Harley Quinn, as you said, is sort of like a mixed bag. I was very happy with her most of the time. I really enjoyed the narrations, and again the doodles and stuff. Again, I just kept getting these sort of like, for lack of a better word, sort of like tank girl vibes, just sort of like Deadpool. Like I just felt like I was witnessing something new, old but new, sure. And that was really nice. Just how drunk everyone was, how amoral everyone was. I like that people. This is gonna sound weird. I like people hit women. I like that people hit children. I was very it was a superhero film that was clearly in the same world as, fucking Man of Steel. Like, let's take a moment to reflect on that. Standout scene for me that I think I was laughing. The longest I've sustained laugh I've had in the cinema for a while was a shootout where a bunch of hitmen shoot an evidence seized pile of cocaine, and Harley Quinn's just taking in deep old gulps and then goes fucking crazy. I loved the fight scenes in this, like the slow-mo into people being hit, the way those stuntmen were throwing themselves around. Like, he did like this lovely sort of like, there was like a scene in the wet and there was a scene in the cocaine where they were like nailing the like particles on every fucking hit. It was really well done. I was very impressed.
Fun. I just wanted to say, by the way, when they were shooting at the bags of cocaine, I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. This is a 15. And then obviously the mist of it kind of was moving towards her nose, and I was like, no, this is a 15. You can't do that. And then she started snorting it, and then went into like her coked up battle rage. And I was just like, obviously you heard me,
yep.
Studio audience Josh, like, oh no. But I actually can't believe that they did. And then Harley snorts the cocaine that is now in the air from the gunfight, and then is galvanized to fight harder.
And
15.
Fucking, as she blows that guy's legs out. It was fucking
those
incredible.
Leg breakers were. Yeah, they were hilarious. I like that they doubled down on it.
Yeah, massively so. And again, like that was, and I could have done with more of that, definitely. That I could have done with the entire thing being as fucking crazy as that. Like, it was obviously nowhere near as good as Jojo Rabbit, but it felt a bit like Jojo Rabbit in sort of like it's spinning the plates of tone.
Right.
And I really rate that. And again, in regards to Ewan McGregor's character, like, they had him being really funny, but then they also had him being really horrible. Like that thing where he fucking strips the woman on the table. Like, that was really uncomfortable. Yes. I don't know what the term is. I don't rate them for doing it, but I rate the concept of having him be both. And I think it didn't work as well for him as it did Harley Quinn. But again, I liked that they were trying.
They were trying. And I mean, the thing is, you knew that I really liked him, but also it was a bit bittersweet, like it was with everyone who I liked in it, because I thought that maybe it could have been better. But me saying that makes me sound quite douchey and entitled, and I'm sensitive to that, so I almost apologise. Because it's not like I know... Because, like I said, it's not for me, and I don't know what the shape of it... what kind of positive shape I'm proposing for it, but all I can just say is that, I did think that Black Mask was very entertaining. I liked him. I'm not really sure that I knew him as well as I would like to, but I'm gonna get into one thing that kind of summed up why it wasn't out of the park for me, and that was that at the beginning I noticed a parallel, and I kind of called it, to me it would go largely unexplored. So they established that Harley Quinn and her character arc is that, she's broken up with the Joker, and they do a good job of this at the beginning. So even though it was quite garish and I wasn't a fan of the aesthetic, I enjoyed how they were I enjoyed what was being set up, even if I didn't always like how it was being set up. And it's just, she's broken up with the Joker, now she has to be responsible for herself, and it's a double-edged sword, and it's kind of a weird thing to explore in a movie like this, but, she's done a lot of bad things when she had protection, and now she doesn't have protection. Mm-hmm. So she almost needs to, she has to grow into her own. Interesting. And then they mention at the beginning Ewan McGregor's character, Black Mask, is he's an heir to a family fortune. So, you know, he while he is like large and in charge and in control and a criminal, he is also someone who comes from inherited privilege. And I was like, oh, okay, so I guess what it will be is how she manages to come from this place of protection and growing to herself, but he manages to go further down rather than developing and becoming his own person. You know, however this would be realised, I thought that there was a parallel between hero and villain, or anti-hero and even bigger villain, that wasn't necessarily the direction that the story went in. And I thought that would have, to me, just would have been really amazing. And, you know, the superhero movies or anti-superhero movies, whatever, that I really love are the ones that do have, even if it is a simple theme, one like that that's explored to the end. I think that's what lifts them from a C to a B or a B to an A.
Okay, yep.
And yeah, that's me. And I'd love to hear just all of what you have to say now, though. I hope that was okay.
No, that was good. Yeah, I mean, I think that is kind of what they were going for. I think it was a lot about men's power over women. Obviously, that's not ground shattering. I thought it did that quite well. I thought obviously Ewan McGregor might have been playing it a bit too much on the nose at points. He was a good person to do it, and he did it well. And I'm only sad he's not coming back. And again, I'm really surprised they burned through. So just from a purely like DCEU meta level, like Victor Zsasz and Black Mask are like some pretty solid B-listers. Like, I'm surprised they both got fucking nuked in this one. I guess maybe that sort of brings us to how little they hold the DCEU in regards now. I guess maybe they're getting more detached from the process, which is good, because it means, you know, because I wouldn't trade either of those deaths for something cornier where they had escaped. That would have probably felt lamer, especially, you know, Ewan McGregor's ending. That was so unexpected and hilarious, and there's just something really funny about watching someone get blown apart.
Sustained laughter from all sides, and like you said about the female empowerment versus kind of male domination. I mean, it was no mistake that she'd put the grenade in his pants.
Yeah.
I thought that was funny. That was so funny. Like, I was upset that I wouldn't see him again, which I guess is another sign of quality broadly for the movie. But he died in such a funny way, and also he was... Not that it's cowardly to be frightened that you're about to be blown up by a grenade, but, you know, he was kind of wailing in a very high-pitched voice and panicking, and it wasn't very dignified.
Sort of reassured or allayed a fear of mine, which was that it was going to be a very heavy-handed defeat of him, and that he was going to be very sort of petulant, and they were going to be very high-handed, and it was going to be like a He-Man episode where they're like, and this is why you should respect women, Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Of course.
But thankfully, it was
like a Captain Marvel ending.
Yeah, literally. That's what I was really worried about, like a Jude Law sort of thing. Because I could imagine it going that way, and they didn't, because they knew that they'd already said their piece, and they were confident enough that they'd said it well. I don't entirely agree that they said it well, but they definitely said it. So I think the themes work. I think, again, like you said, it's such a muddled, linear film for the first. And I would say, you said it's like the first third or the first act. I'd say it's probably up until they're at the bloody theme park, essentially, where it stops and fully becomes a singular narrative. I felt like it worked within it. I think if I was to watch it again, I would get something out of it, just in terms of the interplay between certain things.
Yeah.
And I felt I was getting a good sense of that as I was going along, which is good. Like, you know, people kept showing up who had like, you know, one scene beforehand, and I felt like it was not a smart film, but it was a film that had clearly been plotted and planned very well. I love the mallet. I love the crossbow. I love the reference to like the kicking high in tight pants. That shit was great. It felt really fun. Everyone seemed it was, and yeah, like energetic, and like I said, like I think it's just like the stunt. The guys were selling it. Like I can't remember the last film I saw where people were throwing themselves around like that. Like when people were getting shot by that fucking, what she called it, like the fun gun grenade launcher or whatever is written on the side of it.
Yeah.
And when she was shooting people with that, like it was great. When she was hitting people with that thing as well. And again, something that I really respected was that they clearly measured the amount of bullets on her belt, and that she was going through firing each one, and each one clearly did a specific thing for its color.
Yeah.
And it was just like, the love and attention to detail was in the film that really made me engage with it. Really made me happy.
Well, I thought it was interesting. I went into this pretty blind. I didn't think the trailer looked very good, but I knew we were going to watch it. So I wasn't interested in any press stuff, but, you know, it showed up straight away almost when the credits rolled. It was like, you know, produced by Margot Robbie, you know, so top billing on the production. And it made me have a much warmer opinion of it, which, like I said, not really my thing, but just that this was actually Margot Robbie's idea. She wanted this, and, you know, she actually did like the idea of Harley Quinn, even, you know, whatever criticisms against her in Suicide Squad, and she wanted to take it forward in, in a way that she deemed to be respectful. So once again, not massive, not for Josh, clearly for Aaron, and I think that's probably my good review for it.
Yeah, if you like me more than you like Josh, then go see it. So those two of you. It's a film for comic book fans. I guess. I'm not even sure. I guess so. I mean, if you get a kick, if you like Huntress, or if you really the 90s Harley Quinn stuff, and you have lower standards for action than most people, then I thoroughly recommend it to you, because that's me. I had a lovely time. Like I said, big shout out goes to Mary Elizabeth Winstead. If there's one person I want to continue from this franchise, I would love it if she was in James Gunn's Suicide Squad. I know she's not. I think she'd be a great foil to that cast. I think
definitely.
She slots well. She slots well. And the same with Renee Montana, to be fair. I can imagine either of them slotting into other comic book stuff. And again, like I said earlier about the genre characters, a good mark of good comic book characters is that they can kind of meet anyone and feel consistent still within the universe. I think that's what the MCU does really well, is that you can have Tony Stark talking to Doctor Strange, and he can say, "Don't embarrass me in front of the wizards," and you're like, "Yeah, okay, the tech genius and the ancient Nepalese Kung Fu master exist in the same universe. Brilliant."
And it's fine.
Yeah, and it's fine and all's fun. And so I can fully imagine. I could imagine her meeting Batfleck. I know she won't, because he's been canned. Or in Flashpoint, if they ever do that, then that would be. I could imagine characters from this interacting with the wider DC universe, and that's good. Also, really like the limited references to it. Other than that Jay Courtney one, and obviously the presence of Harley Quinn, there basically wasn't another reference, was it? There was no reference to Justice League, the world-ending events of Justice League, or the world-ending events of Aquaman. I love that. It's brilliant. Or the fact that Mark Strong was downtown with a super laser in Shazam. Is that Mark Strong?
Yeah, that is Mark Strong.
Yeah, good.
Well done.
Thank you. I look forward to watching it again. Actually, I will definitely seek it out when it goes to DVD. I would like to watch that again. So
I have one final point to make.
Mm-hmm.
I discussed this with you already. Actually, I have two.
Ooh.
Firstly, I'm going to say that when you have all of your protagonists in a tower at the end, and your Black Mask, and you show up with an army, a
big
massive
army.
army of people, armed to the teeth as they had been earlier in the movie. Do not send in, a good 50 or 60 of them to go in with samurai swords and knives and do hand-to-hand combat. Set the building on fire. It's just a tower, and shoot at it until people start running out. You'll definitely get what you want, and there will be less of a loss of life. This was inefficient supervillainy, and I'm disappointed.
You won't get detonated on a pier. I would just say, actually, I was thinking about this after you said to me, I think it would have been funny if they'd actually, again, sort of had their cake and eat with that, and you'd be like, wouldn't it be cool if I sent you all in to fight them? If he was just really gassed by the opportunity, and he was like, all right, so drop all your guns, you're not using those, you're going in there with samurai swords.
Oh, well, you know why that would have worked as well? Is, you've done a really good rewrite, because he thought he saw people as his property, and again, that was not enough sustained stuff for me in this movie, because as he kept saying that in the middle part, all he would have had to do is just be like, there'll be what's that thing they had in the the Middle Ages? It's like the wall prize, or the siege's prize.
Oh yeah, he's the first. Everyone into the breach. Yeah, anyone who walks into the runs in the breach with a samurai sword gets an extra 10 grand or something.
Yeah, exactly. Just because he liked seeing things play out, and it would have been quite easy to set up, and then we would have had our action scene without a bit of eye rolling. Yeah,
you could have had him with basically seeing him like big action figures. You'd be like, yeah, go on, go fight them. Yeah, that would be brilliant. But yeah, that was my. Nice. So yeah, I managed to. Come up with a better version of that in seconds. Again.
Well, at least, I would have loved a bit more time for him. Even that maybe feels a bit wrong, because, this isn't the Black Mask movie, this is the Harley Quinn movie. But
you need a good villain, don't you? So
yeah, that's true. And he was he was a really decent villain, and I look forward to seeing him in movies more again. It was a decent time. I was happy with it at the end. You really liked it, and that's what I have to say.
I like it when we disagree. Well, obviously, within reason. Yeah. As long as we don't get too silly.
Absolutely. As long as we don't end up disagreeing so much that we decide the other one has to die.
Yeah, exactly. I arrive outside your house with my army of villains. And I'm like, all right, first one in.
Oh, they've all got masks. Fuck.
Yeah, they've all got samurai swords.
Guess we've been checked for traps, and thank you very much for listening.
Yeah, thank you.